Hi everyone, and welcome back to our writing guide. There are many great, wonderful ink brands around the world. However, there is one that is mostly known by Vietnamese grade school children from the late 90s to the current day. The sights of these bottles bring nostalgia and good memories. In today's video, we're going to be looking at new offerings from Queen Stationery, and I'll show you the latest iterations of their classic everyday ink colors. Disclaimer: this video is sponsored by Queen, and they have provided me with these products for review. However, they are not controlling my opinions of the products, and all of them are my own feelings and from personal testing. Before we begin, if you would like to support the channel, please consider clicking the like and subscribe. And if you are looking for your next fountain pen, notebooks, or ink bottles, please check out a writing guy shop on Instagram or send me an email to awritingguy@gmail.com. For more fountain pen related content, please check out the website awritingguy.com. Let's start with purple, the most classic looking color by Queen. This one is not that of a typical purple you usually see from ink makers from Japan, or similar to the rich, deep shade, almost black at times, from the Western ink makers. The legend goes, as the Vietnamese War ended and the country was trying to recover from the aftermath, there aren't many fountain pen brands or ink supply left to choose from, and most of the popular brands back then were Parkers and Pilots, left over by the troops of the US and Japan. Supplies were scarce and people were struggling to make a living, so the primary means of communications were reverted back to written letters and typewritten letters. There weren't any established fountain pen ink manufacturers, so people resorted to homemade remedies or backyard scientists, creating their own inks stored in metal containers in unpredictable environments and sold in tin cans, and especially to grade school children who took their repurposed milk cans to get a bit of ink to take to school, leading to these ink developing mold and rust from their containers or pigments as people misunderstood. The man who started Queen was frustrated about the situation, so he started making his own ink and stored in glass bottles, sold directly to stationers around Ho Chi Minh City in the 1990s, and the rest was history. Green and purple were the most popular as they were the cheapest to make, and due to chemical reactions during shipping in the containers, these inks turned into sort of copperous green or an orange purplish looking color, and many years have gone by, but these old colors were so ingrained into the consciousness of many Vietnamese generations, they have decided to stick with it. This purple is a bright looking one, and it has been synonymous with the pairing of Chinese duplicates of the Parker 51 and 61. But as an everyday writing ink, this one is good but still legible, which is always a plus in my book. Next, let's look at the red. There are plenty of other bright, saturated, and vibrant red out there in terms of reddish orange or burgundy, but we're going to be looking at a ballpoint kind of red today. Queen's red might be the closest one to a ballpoint. I'm not really sure what to make of the saturation and shading. It is fairly consistent through the swatching, and the result stays that way. Even from a broad nib to an extra fine nib, you get the same color and shading, and you can definitely use it as a highlighting ink, and the red is a staple for Vietnamese grade school teacher as well. Next up, let's look at the blue. At first glance at the blue, it gives you the impression that it's your typical cliche royal blue that all brands make, but when I actually compare my writing with the previous blues in my stash, this one starts to pop out of the page. You don't get a diluted and faded blue, but what you're getting is a rich and deep shade that is almost rollerball refill kind of blue. And On the page, it flows well, wonderfully with all nib sizes from extra broad to extra fine. And overall, if you're just looking for an ordinary blue to write and to read from, Queen's Blue is definitely a good choice. Next up, Blue Black. Now, this one gives me a bit of mixed feeling. Now, when you say blue black, the black is the main thing. But in this case, the blue is the main appeal of Queen's Blue Black. I'll get back to that in a minute, but standalone, the blue black is really good. It has a lot of depth, it has a lot of shading, and in terms of color, I can say it's probably the most vibrant blue black out there. Understated, but vibrant. Finally, in the lineup, here's the black. Now, usually for Western black, say a black from America or Germany, is going to be grayish most of the time and it's kind of diluted. But for Queens, the amount of pigments or dye that you get in the ink is a lot. Now, for a fountain pen safe kind of ink, I would suggest Queen's Black. That is black enough that you don't see the gray areas of the lighter pool of ink, but it's also black enough that you can distinguish the letters if you read it in the dark. Now, there are things that I would like them to change if they are trying to become an international ink brand, competitively selling around the world. The design of the labels, the boxes, they are not really legible from far away. I know that these patterns on the Queen's ink boxes are Vietnamese inspired. However, they are blocking the way of the consumer reading the content on the label, and there are extra redundant information. And we can always use a bit more white in the designing of the label. Next up, the bottle. Now, I'm not trying to sugarcoat it, but it looks a lot like the Parker Queen ink bottle. There's nothing wrong with many brands using the same ink bottle design, but there can always be a bit of change and tweaking to stand out from the crowd. And I've spoken with the marketing team, and they're trying to replace their ink bottles to stand out on their own. Finally, overall, as a family owned business, they are currently the best and largest ink manufacturer in Vietnam. In the end, it's always a pity that I don't see them around globally more often than not. Now, I would like to hear from you. What do you guys think? Would you like to try these colors for everyday use? And what sorts of color that is similar to these? Please let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.